Hi everyone, so we're going to be looking at this data set that we can grab from Kaggle. So Kaggle is great if you want to have a bunch of large data sets from like .csv files and convert it into .json, and then we can grab the data and display it however we like. So this is just some of the information. I'm not going to use all of the data because there is a lot, and if you use too much data at once, then it can lag the entire program as well. So I'm sticking to only a little bit at a time, but we're going to create something like this where it displays a bunch of information here by just grabbing and looping through it. So what we can see here is there's this thing called Kaggle. So if I go into another tab and just search for Kaggle, so here if I just search for Kaggle, you can see that it should be the first link at the top. It says your machine learning and dataset science community. So if we click on this, just mind you that I already set up an account, I logged in, so you have to register for an account if you want to get the dataset. It's completely free, so you should not have to pay for it. So let's click on this right here. Once you've logged in, you'll get sent to this dashboard area, and in this area on the left side we could see we have datasets, code, all this other stuff. So we could click on datasets, and right here we can search for whatever information we'd like, and this is essentially just already pre-made information that you can use for your projects. And I want you to actually practice just looking for one that you like and then grabbing the information and then showcasing it on the screen. So what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to use the one that I'm at right now. So if we look for airline passenger, I have it here in my history, and I'm going to leave a link to this in the actual description box below, so you'll be able to reference it anyways. I'm sure it's somewhere. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into data here, and then in the data section, the tab, you'll see a bunch of information of what it'll look like, what information you'll get. And what I want to do is I actually want to download one of them. I'm going to download, you can download whichever one you want. I believe I just got the train.csv. So if I just click this and then click that little download button right here, you'll see this little icon right here at the right beside this trains.csv. It'll say download. So if you click that button, you'll see it download here on your computer. And what we have here is we have an Excel file. So what we have here is we have an Excel file with all of the different data that we could use. But of course we could use the information directly from the Excel file and then convert all this information, stringify the information, and then create an object and all this stuff. But it's going to be, I think the code is going to be really complicated that way. So the easiest way to go about doing this is actually converting this Excel sheet into a .json. So what we could do is I'm just going to close it, and I'm going to go search for something. So what I'm going to search for is I'm going to search for a .csv to .json converter. So you could see here, you could just search for .csv to .json converter, and then you'll get like a bunch of stuff online. I'm just going to click the second link there. And right here, you can click whichever one you want. There's so many online, but I'm just going to use this one, and then it says CSV to JSON. So I'm going to click this. And then right here, I'll just choose the file. So I already downloaded it, remember? But I have to make sure I take it out of here, and make sure you uncompress whatever file you got. And then here, so right here, I just move this Excel file on my desktop so I could find it easier, and then I can convert it. So I'll choose a file, and I'm going to navigate to my desktop, and then I'm just going to convert it. So it's called train. . and then you just wait for that to load. So once it's done converting, if you scroll down a little bit here, or whatever site you're on, it should say something like convert. So I'm going to click convert. Okay, so if you're having a hard time converting something because it's just crashing the entire site, I would suggest opening up the data file and removing a few lines from the Excel sheet, because it's probably just so big that it's just going to crash your entire computer. So I'm just going to eliminate half of it at least, so then I can properly convert everything to .json. So if I just scroll down, I'll just say somewhere around here, actually, maybe like 1/3 of it. To be honest, I don't need 42,000 lines of code. Okay, so if I go here and then go all the way down as far as possible. Okay, so it looks like it's actually a really big file. So I'm going to go all the way back up. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy. I'm just going to go up to 100. So if I scroll down here, and then somewhere here, like wherever it ends, I'm just going to go all the way up to the top. I'm going to copy what I need. But then what I will do is, let me see here. I'll just go on a new sheet, paste it inside. And then now I should only have 100 lines of information. That's gonna be way easier to work with. So I'm just gonna delete that old one. Delete. And I'm just gonna rename this to train for that tab. And now that I got all this information, 100 lines of information, I'm gonna save it, exit, and then I'm gonna go back to the browser here, and I'm just gonna upload this new CSV file. So it looks like I have to refresh because it froze here. There we go. So now I'm going to upload the new CSV file that I have. Convert it. And you can see it's so much faster and quicker. Next thing, I have to click download. And when I click download, you can see that it creates it in a .json format. And it's going to be easier for us to use. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just copy this onto my desktop, just so I know where it is and then I can use it later. So now what I want to do is I want to set up a brand new project. So let me install Next.js. So I'm going to navigate to my desktop. And then I will install a brand new Next.js project. I'll just call it train Kaggle example. And just letting you know that this is the new Next.js 13 that I will be using. So for TypeScript, I'm going to say no. ESLint, I'll say no. I'm just going to use just a pure .next.js template. So now what I want to do is, now that I have this new folder, I'm going to just drag it into Visual Studio. And I have my data, this .json file that has already been created for me that I've just converted. So I'm just going to rename it to train. And what I want to do is here in the root folder, I'm going to actually create a brand new folder. And I'm going to call it data. And then inside here, I'll just drag and drop this .json file in here. And you should have something like this with your data folder right there in the main root of the folder. And then inside data, you'll have train.json. And you can see all of the data that we have here. And what we want to do now is let's just test it out to make sure that this project is properly set up at the beginning. So npm run dev. And I think I'll have to go to 3001. So now that we have everything set up, it should look something like this. If you have the new Next.js 13 installed on your computer. And what I want to do now is I need to actually begin modifying the code. So what I'm going to actually be doing is, let me go to Visual Studio. And then here in Pages, we're going to go into index.js. And right here, we're just going to have to change a few things so it looks a little bit better. I'm going to remove everything inside the main here. So it should be something like this. I'm going to start from scratch pretty much and make it as simple as possible. So what I want to do in here is, let's say I want to have a div. And what I want to do in this div is I want to actually map through all of the data in this train.json. So first thing I'll actually have to do is I'll have to import it at the top. So I'll say import, I'll call it record from /data because we have to go back one directory. And then I'm going to call the file name, which is train.json. And then this way I'm going to be able to grab the data. Now here in the main, within this div, I'm going to have to call the record of information because we called it record right up here. We can now call that record and loop through the information by using .map. So let me use the record and then I'll use .map. And then what I want to do is for each item, it'll just be called rec, and then there'll be an index as well. And then I have to use the arrow and then the curly brace bracket. And what I'm going to be doing is I'll say return something in here. And what I'm returning, there's going to be a div of information. So with all this populated information, doesn't look like there's that error showing up now, but sometimes it does show up. So in order to get rid of it, we have to use key is equal to, we'll say index because each index is unique. It always increments by 1 each time. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to also console log this record so I can see what information I can call. Because if I do console log record, then I can actually see it in my browser as well. So I'm going to save it. And then I'm going to go over here. I'm just going to refresh the entire page. So we got the information right here. You see there's like 2 data sets that are showing right now. It's just because it's a way that React or Next.js does perform. It always re-renders the page twice. I'll get into that later. But you can see here we have all the information from our data set. And This is something that's going to be really useful for us. We need to loop through and grab this information. You can see how much information we can get. So I'm just grabbing the ID, and I'm also going to grab something else, which is like gender or something else. But let's try grabbing the other information as well first. Right now, at least we can see what each information looks like and what we can grab. So if I just minimize that a little bit, you can see here that we have an ID, which I'm already calling. And if we look in the actual console, we can see that there's an ID right here. So each individual person or each individual booking has an ID number. So if we minimize this, I'm also going to call, let's say, the gender. So div, and I'll just say rec.gender. And what I'll do here, I'm going to save it. And you can see here it says male, male, female, and all this stuff. Let's say if I want to grab one more thing, just for fun. So let's say what class they are. So class, it'll say what class each person is as well. I'll say rec.class. So save it. So we got ID, gender, and class. And if we go back to the browser, we can see here that we have whatever class those bookings are in. And I think that should be okay for right now. You guys pretty much understand the general idea as to how it works now. But you can see we can grab the information that we need. And then we're going to minimize. Let's actually grab, I think that's enough. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stylize this a little bit just so it looks a little bit nicer. And for this div that contains everything, I'm going to say class name is equal to styles.container. And in here, make sure you still have that styles home.module.css at the top here because we're importing the styles. And I'm applying the style to this entire div, which will contain everything. So I'm going to save it. But now I need to go into the home.module or I need to go into my styles, home.module.css. And in here, I am going to change some stuff. So I'll just keep the stuff in the main, but everything else I'm going to delete down below. So I'm just going to go scroll down and then delete. So I should only have main in here. And then also in globals.css, I am going to delete some stuff just to get rid of some background colors and stuff that's defaulted. So I'll delete all of this right here. So I'm just going to keep the stylizing of the font and stuff. But this media right here, I will remove this media. Just so it's super basic. So I'm just going to keep it like this. And then now I'm going to go back to home.module.css. And inside here is where I'm going to actually do my stylizing. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add some stylizing onto the container because here in the index.js I called this outer div right here based on styles.container. I'm going to make some class called container inside the home.module.css. So let me make that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to have this div that contains everything. What I'm actually going to do here, I'm going to try it like this. Background color light blue. And I'll try removing this div right here around everything. And I'm just going to keep it around the main container. And in here, I'm going to go back to the home.module.css. and then I will reference main and each individual div. So let me just save it and go back to the browser. Okay. I'm going to get rid of the flex direction and save it. Go back to the browser. Okay, that's better. That's what I wanted. So I'm just going to get rid of that column so then it formats everything. But you can see here, I might need to, it looks like business is somewhat overlapping. So I'm going to make the width a little bit bigger. So 150 pixels width for each div, that should be good. And there we go. So now it gives like a card for each individual person, and it's listing it out. It's looping through it. So you could stylize it however you like. I'm just showing you that this is how you create your own data. You can find your own data here on Kaggle, and this is something that'll be great for your project or just anything in the future that you want to use it for. And it's really simple, just downloading and then converting the CSV to .json. Sometimes they already have the .json file already, but if not, you could always look online to convert it. But this is how you go about grabbing data online and using it. And one more thing I want to show you guys is, let's say here in the class, because we have so many different classes like business, eco, plus, whatever they are, let's say I only want to grab one type. So let's say I just want to grab, since there's not a lot of eco plus, I'm going to try just grabbing eco plus and filtering through so it doesn't display everything. So I'm going to use a ternary operator for this. So if this is equal to eco plus, then what I will do is I will display the information. But if not, there will be nothing. So inside here, what I will display is I'll first make the outer ones empty, and then this one a div, because that's the only one that's really needed. And I will, if there is something, then I will show that class. If not, if it's not equal plus, then display nothing. It'll just skip it completely. So let me save it and see what happens. Okay, so it looks like it's having some issues. So the only issue is that because I already have the other stuff at the top as well in the code, so because of this other stuff as well, it's just causing issues. So what I could do is I could remove that part in here, and actually I could put it directly in here as well. So what I could do, so if there is something, then I could show all this stuff. So I'll save it, and let's see if this now works here. Alright, so looks like it does work, but it's just all over the place, so we need to actually filter out the things we don't need. So if there's equal plus, then pretty much there's going to be nothing. So if there's nothing, it shouldn't even show. So let me just double check here what is actually being called, because it looks like there's something else. Okay, so it's still showing all the other divs, so it's something to do with this one. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to make this one empty as well. And I'm just going to make it only for this. The one that surrounds everything is empty. So let me save it. Exit here. Okay, so now it works here. So now I filtered out everything that's only eco plus, and you can see here it reduced by a lot. We had 100 different something data, and now it reduced down to what? That's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So that's a lot less. And you know, you can just make filters. So maybe one section is eco plus, one is eco, and one is business. So that's how you go about filtering out the data that you want to use. But hopefully this helped in order to understand how to go about filtering through. I essentially used a .map. So this rec is what each individual item is going to grab in the data set, and the index is what it's just making it a unique individual key. So rec is going to I'm going to grab the class. So as long as it's eco plus, if this is false, if it's not eco plus, you can see here it's just nothing. So ternary operators, it's always whatever condition you want. And if this is true, then you do this. But if it's false, you do whatever's after the colon, which is whatever you want. And I just said do nothing, which is just those empty, the empty tag right here. So if there is something, if it is eco plus exactly, if it's spelled exactly the same, then I'm going to display this div with the unique ID or index, and then each individual div of whatever information that I want to showcase. So this is how you go about filtering the information that you need.